Welcome to Sci-Fi Stories. If you love stories of courage and mystery, make sure to subscribe and join our growing community.
The explosion painted the testing dome in liquid blue fire. Observers flinched. Shockwaves rolled across the chamber like invisible thunder. When the glare faded, the target still stood, untouched, encased inside a crystal-clear structure that shimmered softly under the smoke. At its center, human cadet Rowan Pike checked a small timer on his wrist. "Impact resistance holding," he muttered calmly. Above him, the Academy's elite faculty erupted into overlapping outrage. "Cadet Pike," thundered Professor Zorthel, a towering insectoid whose voice rattled the dome walls. "You detonated a military-grade charge during a classroom evaluation." Rowan looked up, unfazed. "It was listed as stress testing, Professor." "That phrase implies simulation," Zorthel snapped. Rowan gestured toward the barrier. "Looks real enough to me." 70 hours earlier, the Interstellar Foundry Academy prided itself on producing minds sharper than singularities. Rowan was not expected to be one of them. Humans still carried a reputation, clever improvisers, but academically undisciplined. The assignment sounded simple: create a defensive structure using only discarded materials from the reclamation yards. No powered shields, no refined alloys, no nanotech. Most cadets dragged chunks of scrap metal back to their stations. Rowan walked straight past the metal piles, toward the biological waste vault. A few students stared. One whispered, "Is the human lost?" Rowan wasn't lost. He was smiling. Humans didn't just read rules, they searched for the gaps between them. Inside the vault floated translucent strands harvested from the molted shells of asteroid-dwelling silk crawlers, stronger than steel by weight, flexible, self-binding. Ignored because they were considered unpleasant, Rowan filled 3 containers. "Nature already solved half our engineering problems," he murmured. "Most species just never bother to look." Back in the lab, while others hammered metal into crude barricades, Rowan started cooking, literally. He dissolved the protein fibers into a reactive gel using repurposed sterilizer fluid. The mixture glowed faintly, like bottled moonlight. Layer by careful layer, he poured it into a curved mold. Then added microfilaments for tension distribution. Then a catalyst. The reaction hummed alive. Heat shimmered upward. Students nearby slowly backed away. "Is it supposed to sound like that?" one asked nervously. Rowan didn't look up. "Probably." Minutes later, the mold cracked open. What emerged wasn't bulky, wasn't intimidating, it was elegant. A translucent arc that bent light as if space itself preferred going around it. Professor Zorthel approached, antennae twitching. "You constructed plastic," Rowan grinned. "Engineered bioresin composite." Zorthel handed him a cutting tool. "Test it." Rowan planted the structure and dropped the tool from shoulder height. It bounced off, hard, no dent, no vibration. Silence rippled through the lab. Zorthel scanned it twice. "Organic," he whispered. "Biomimetic," Rowan corrected gently. "Spider silk distributes force across thousands of strands." "I just encouraged the molecules to cooperate." The demonstration should have ended there. It didn't, because the Academy Ethics Board panicked. Unauthorized biological synthesis, unknown stability, potential contamination. So Rowan proposed something bold. "Let me prove it's safe," which led directly back to the present. And the explosion. Smoke cleared completely now. The dome lights flickered back to life. Rowan stepped forward and tapped the barrier. "Still perfect, not even warm." "This structure disperses kinetic energy laterally," he explained. "Instead of absorbing the blast, it teaches the force where to go." The tribunal's central intelligence, a floating neural lattice, pulsed thoughtfully. "Zero power signature detected," it announced. "No structural compromise." Professor Zorthel stared at the syllabus, then at Rowan. "You exploited a loophole," Rowan shrugged. "You wrote a puzzle." A long silence followed. Finally, Cadet Rowan Pike, the tribunal declared, you receive highest distinction. Zorthel exhaled slowly. Deactivate it. Rowan checked his timer again. No need. Hairline fractures suddenly traced across the structure. Gasps echoed. Then the entire barrier softened, melted, and flowed harmlessly across the floor as clear liquid. Fully biodegradable, Rowan said, should evaporate by morning. The tribunal chamber dissolved into hurried evacuation. Zorthel watched the puddle spread, then looked back at the human. A realization settled in. If this was what humans built under restriction, what would they create without it? Tell me, Cadet, the professor said carefully. Why pursue methods no one else considers? Rowan slung his bag over his shoulder. Because the universe expects us to think bigger weapons win fights. He smiled faintly. Humans just prefer smarter ones. That night, the Academy issued an emergency update to every course file. Addendum: biological engineering is no longer permitted in structural exams. Students groaned. Professors relaxed. Somewhere in his quarters, Rowan slept peacefully, already dreaming of tensile geometries and wondering if coral growth patterns could stop a rail cannon. Across the Academy, one conclusion quietly spread. Never underestimate a species that treats limitations like invitations. Because in a galaxy obsessed with power, the most dangerous student is often the one who simply refuses to think the normal way.